Well, I had the privilege of interviewing Rachel Maddow earlier this week, but
I
I will
saw.
say that being able to spend time with you, V Spear, is amazing. Those of you that are watching this on the Katie Phang News Channel, this is a highlight for me. Under the Desk, Under the Desk News is V Spear, not only on TikTok and Substack. Yes, you can also get Under the Desk News on Substack now, but V is also the host of American Fever Dream, which is a podcast with Betches News. Although before we hit record, V and
Yeah.
I were wondering, is there a market out there for some sweaty balls ASMR?
I think there is, and I was telling you in the peak pandemic, I had a podcast called Headline Snooze, and I'd be like, "Hi, today is March 20th, 2020, and I'm going to read you Anthony Fauci's emails." And then there would be I would just use a soft voice and people would go to sleep. I read Elizabeth Holmes' dirty text messages between her and the guy she was having an affair with at her office during the Elizabeth Holmes trial, and people ask for me to do it all the time. So I feel like I should bring it back. Maybe we're at a stressful point enough now with all the shenanigans of the Trump administration that Headlines News should come back.
So I had offered that maybe in the interest of entertainment and transparency, because I am very big on transparency,
Yes.
Especially Katie Unleashed transparency, we could maybe read the hate emails, post text messages, comments, everything that I get that run the gamut from being racist and sexist to being just horrifically fucking horrible. I could do that. I mean, listen, I am not one of those people that's like, don't put it in the universe. Listen, I don't give a what. So I have the power. So V, you and I'm actually can I pat myself on the back for a hot second?
Yes, please do.
So I would like to think that I was one of the first people in quote mainstream media to have you on. Is that accurate?
You were indeed. The very first was I was on the Inspiration Thursday on the Today Show when I first started doing the episode, and they did a little special on doing Under the Desk News. But as far as being brought on as an expert and not as an oddity, you were absolutely first.
Well, I did. So we did do an Instagram live.
Yeah.
And then we did a segment, at least two, actually. I think we did one with you as a panel. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then one with you on the Katie Phang show, which, by the way, I'm just very proud of things like that, right? It's not just my goal to amplify AA and HPI voices on my show, but to also take people like you that just have an incredibly astute kind of take on the world. And I feel like it was the breaking of the barriers of being like, oh, you're in quote independent media, which listen, I still use that phrase now, but I turn to people like you because you are so in tune with what America is looking at. And I felt one of my biggest criticisms of quote mainstream media is that it was the same voices over and over again, the same takes regurgitated, maybe on a different day, maybe through the lens of another yet other kind of random, straight cis person, white person. And it just didn't feel like it was giving the truly the depth of the consideration of the journeys that go into these analyses or these comments. And so I was really psyched to have this conversation with you because the drama with Elon Musk and Donald Trump you want to talk about fever dream, reached a fever pitch.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just the beginning of a very ugly divorce. I used to do family law before I went into full-time TV, and I'm actually back doing the law a little bit. And one of the craziest things was I used to have to tell clients, but you married them. You married that person or you had kids with that person. And so I look at this drama between Musk and Trump, and I want to get your take because yes, I don't want to be distracted by it. And I know it's,
I do. No, whatever. I want to be distracted by it.
But I'm all up in the shit because I just feel like it's just so hard. It's a Tesla crash that you just can't not look at when you drive by.
It is. Here's the thing. Anytime something happens that the public finds joy or fascination with, or a little bit is bringing people together, like say this, right? every single person I know is on everything from Threads to TikTok to YouTube to Twitch, everywhere talking about this. And it's building community and it's building camaraderie. And then you get somebody who goes, you're being distracted. What are they actually doing? And I'm like, no. It's both, right? We have the capacity for both. One, looking at the train wreck of the Elon Musk breakup is important. I think building community through that and seeing everybody kind of talking about it is important. I think humiliating bad people is important. And as much as they don't realize it because they're narcissists and they're in the middle of it and they're just like, oh yeah, point for me. They don't realize that you are losers. Like, you're still a loser. Everybody's laughing at you, not with you. And then the more that the like sort of MAGA folks lose their mind to decide like, am I going to back Trump? Am I going to back Elon? Like, which side of this coin am I on? Oh, they're both just alpha males with balls the size of the moon. This was somebody's quote. And you're just not used to seeing real men fight. And that's why you don't know how to deal with it and understand it. And I'm like, oh my God, cry harder. But I have loved this. I think it's been a delightful break for the last 2 days. And all of the real stuff that's happening, like with the Senate bill, is going to be there.
Yeah. And it's funny because I did a Substack live with Miles Taylor and before I spoke with you, and he had this really great quote on his Substack that I'll read to you because I wrote it down. He said about the Elon Musk stuff. He said, an opponent inside the tent can do more damage than 1,000 critics outside of it. And it gave me some cause for pause. And the reason why is I have kind of been threading that needle of, I'm still hammering the reconciliation bill. I'm still hammering the immigration issues. We were just talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. I mean, like, I am on it, right? And I am fully capable of like being on it on everything at all times. But I agree that somebody with the power and the money, like Elon Musk, taking a stand against Donald Trump. And again, I understand the caveat. Musk sucks because he kept his mouth shut until it didn't fucking benefit him anymore. Mm-hmm. But the shit he knows, like, now I feel like, don't be a tease, Elon. Just put it on all out there, because he loses so much credibility, does he not? If he then backpedals and said, well, we're besties again, I guess we just had a spat. I mean, how
never
do you
going to happen?
You got Steve Bannon saying, deport his ass.
Well, like, here's the thing. It's because it's not just about the fight between Elon and Musk and this being like a sort of public, messy Real Housewives type thing, right? It is that. But it is also the fact that this fight this week is compounding on him being called Taco last week, is compounding on him not being able to, he didn't know about certain laws that were being passed the week before. This has been a building momentum movement that is being, in my opinion, orchestrated by people who aren't in the mix right now, like Peter Thiel, whose name will be brought in, but he's not in the mess. Because the broader purpose here is to make Trump look so inefficient, so humiliated, so distracted that they could either 25th Amendment him or do something to put JD Vance in as president. So of course, that's the bigger show here. It's not actually just Musk versus Trump. It's Musk, Thiel, and like the techocracy, possibly JD Vance versus old guard boomer MAGA Facebook. You know what I mean? So you've got like Trump, Steve Bannon, and the like Twitter MAGA bros like Jack Posobiec or whoever else who's still on this side. And they both think that they are the president. Elon Musk and Donald Trump both think that they are the president, but they are realizing now, I think, that the power struggle does not allow both of them to be flattered in such a way. And Elon's like, well, I bought it. And Trump's like, well, Trump's short-term goal was to be president. Well, now you are, but what power do you actually have? What control do you have? What did you have to sell to get that job title? You don't really have any power anymore because the power was all sort of situated with Elon and Doge and all of the sort of like accolades that you gave to him. So I think we're in for a showdown when it comes to how this shakes out. I don't see how Trump makes it any further with the fact that Elon owns the trolls and the social media platform, and Trump cannot take criticism. He's already humiliated.
So I really like that takeaway. And this is the reason why I love talking to you, because one, it's definitely not what we're hearing on mainstream, right? And two, I like your takeaway because of the following, because I'd like to think that it's when you make a chip in the armor or you make a chip in the dam, you cannot underestimate the strength of that crack in the armor or a chink in the armor, right? You cannot underestimate the value of that. And with somebody like Elon Musk, yes, eventually JD Vance does come around and he did say, Donald Trump has made the greatest. It was a really weird,
he said, I support him.
Thing.
He said, I support him as the leader of this movement. And that's because
like
JD Vance.
Bowel movement. Like it was.
Yes, but JD Vance will eventually need MAGA to be his militia when he replaces Trump, whether that's, by 25th Amendment or in 2028. And so he has to align himself.
Right. For JD Vance to find
Jesus. He was on the Theo Vaughn show. He was hanging out with his butt. He is not on Trump's actual side. So he was with his other clown buddy chatting up whatever until he got off and was like, how am I going to kind of like make it, how can I show that I'm a part of MAGA, but not show that I'm not loyal to the tech bros? Okay, this is the comment that I'll say.
So let me ask you a question. So how did you and I are having this conversation on the Katie Phang News channel on YouTube, and you have been incredibly, and I will just put this out there, you have been incredibly generous with me as a friend, as a colleague, as a mentor, as a Sherpa, as a guru, as a rabbi for me, coming into this independent media space. And I feel like people like you and my buddies here at the Midas Network and stuff, you guys figured out that digital was the place to be before anybody else figured it out. What was it? What was the siren song for you? Or what did you see in the secret sauce that said, I needed to do what I am doing now?
I think we are the sirens, right? I think me and the Midas boys and all the folks who kind of like started to really take this seriously back in 2019, 2020 are the sirens and also the architects of the space, of this version of the space, right? I think there are different iterations, like Philip DeFranco was maybe version 2.0, I may be version 4.0 type thing. But it's because we weren't allowed in other places. Like you said, you were the first one to invite us onto your show. All the shows have the same speakers all the time because they're booked by the publicists. I don't have 12 grand minimum for a retainer for a publicist to get me booked on TV shows. So, and that's the process, right? There's a world and a process and gears that run that we weren't a part of. So we sort of we were locked out of the school. So we started building a clubhouse at recess. And now everybody's like, whoa, that clubhouse came out like kind of nice. And the school sucks. Can we come hang out with you? And it's like, yeah, man, come hang out. Because I think on one side, I know what it feels like to be locked out of something. I know how difficult it was to do the independent media thing, but I also believe that this is the best way to protect democracy and build a better community and a better society. And so anybody who is successful in mainstream, I want them, if they're really genuinely interested in doing the independent thing, to have that opportunity and not feel the way that we felt in some ways. Now, the reason why I'm so generous with you in particular is because I think you genuinely and authentically have a strong point of view. You're incredibly intelligent and you want to be an independent person who is in collaboration and a peer of everybody else who's on the playground. There are some folks who come out of the mainstream media and I feel like they just want to take up space here because they think it's monetizable, but they don't actually ever see themselves as part of the crew. And so I think folks like you will succeed. And I think other people will realize it doesn't matter if you're mainstream or independent, if you're kind of a jerk.
Well, yeah, no. And first of all, thank you for that. I love, one of the coolest things about not being at MSNBC anymore is the ability to collaborate with other people. Now, understandably, when you're in mainstream media, there's an exclusivity.
Sure.
I'm on a contract, you're paying me, you pretty much own me. You own my likeness, you own my voice, you own this other stuff. But the cool things we do that we're able to do together, I think, and this is something that comes, this is the Midas kind of mission as well. It's we all lift each other up. There is this remarkable concept of there's enough space for all of us here. Why? Because we do come from different places. Like my shared experiences with you make us kin, but then you have experiences along your own personal journey that lend you to have a perspective that I don't have. And when we kind of bring all of that to the table, there's a collective bonus for in the pro-democracy space. You know what it's like to fight a different fight than I have, just like I have fought different battles, but then we learn how to fight together. And I want to hope that energy can be extrapolated to the Democrats right now, because I think that it is an evergreen statement and one that you and I have shared together offline, in a frustration that the Democrats seem to be a little bit rudderless right now, that we are finding pockets of joy with people like Jasmine Crockett and AOC and others that are, I find like they're finding their own voices now, right? It's almost like they are.
Well, we got locked out, right? Nancy Pelosi made AOC stand down for the last 6 years. And so she's sick of it. So she's not going to do that anymore. You get to a point where you're like, the emperor has no clothes, right? Like the people who have been in charge for the last 40 or 50 years maybe did incredible things for their particular era, but that era has changed now and it's a new era. And that's why we see people with, you know, who don't come from, who aren't a Kennedy or a Clinton or a Pelosi or a Schumer or whatever, coming up and doing really well because they represent the people well. One of the people that I really look up to is Bill Nye, and I like him as Bill a person because I grew up with him. He's remained a consistently safe adult. He's a person who will show up to be on television and talk about science just as easily as he shows up still to third grade classes to inspire young people to science. And I think, like my grandma used to say, skirts can only get so short before the maxi dress is back in. And I think things got so exclusive and so elite and so, like by the book that someone else wrote, that folks are now like, okay, I'm sick of that. I'm going to start over, you know, with my maxi dress. I'm going to try something totally different, even if it means that I don't get to be included in the space I was before. And I think that's pretty cool. So on two lessons there. One, do your own thing, and it takes longer, but it's better. And two, do you want to be famous and powerful and have a job for life? Or do you want to do really great science or really great journalism? Like, are you here for the mission you originally started with? Bill Nye could have very easily been like a Neil Tyson Degrassi person who's like gone full MAGA and is super weird now, right?
Weird. Yeah.
But he's not, because who he was in his heart and his soul and why he did this was to inspire people to be curious. And so he's stayed really good. And I think with folks like even Joe Biden, right, who I have great respect for, who came into office at 29 years old, at some point he stopped being there because he believed he represented the people, and he stayed because he thought he knew better. And I think that this idea with the older Democrats right now thinking they know better is what is the Achilles heel for them. You don't represent the people anymore. You're very wealthy now. You're either not the age of the average person right now. Maybe you had children, but that was in the 90s, and people who have children now live a very different life. And so I think it's time they have to pass the baton or act like Bill Nye and show up and be a mentor and not always be the, well, I'm only coming if I get to be the star guy.
And you know what's really interesting about that is I have been saying to everybody, with the exception of some voices, DC is not going to save us. We have to save ourselves. We have to lean into our communities. And Olivia Juliana and I were hanging out.
She's cool.
I'm a huge fan. And
she
what I love,
at 17, like that's crazy.
Well, and so that's funny too, because I like this, whatever that generation is. I never know what the alphabet letter is. What are they?
Gen Z.
God, I sound like old man screaming at the cloud right now, but I don't fucking know because I'm turning 50. So what I loved about what she said was this. She said, you're not always going to remember the person who comes and hits you up for a $5 or $10 donation to the local party or to vote for like whatever. But you're going to remember the person who came when, I don't know, the Republicans slashed your Meals on Wheels and they came and brought you food. Or somebody who said, I see you need something, or you ask them for help and they help you. You'll remember that person. And that's a sense of community that I think we need to be leaning into and that we need to be building together, because that's what's going to save us. It's not, let me hit you up so that you can give a donation so you can vote for a candidate. It's, what can I do to make your life better? Knowing that, yes, I come with limitations, I come with baggage, and I come with certain things that maybe I can't answer or fix all of your problems, but what can I do to make your life better? And the other thing that you just said that resonated was, I love it when politicians say, this is not my seat. This is the people's seat. It's a job, but it's not my seat. It is something that you elected me to do. I feel like some of the current regime is so out of touch with the idea that they were elected to represent all of them and just not their own interests on this, which is why
it's been my bag with Nancy Pelosi, right? And I'm not saying that she hasn't done great things. but you represent San Francisco, and you have for 40 years. San Francisco is, known as the gay capital of the United States. How do you look at your district of millions of people over 40 years, and in all that time, and with all those people, not see one person that you could recognize could maybe do a good job too? Maybe should get a shot. Maybe I don't need to hold. I think with the Senate, I'm a little bit more like, whatever, be a senator forever. You're representing the state, and you have to be like kind of a lawyer to know. I mean, you got to know a lot. Being a senator is different than being a congressperson, but a congressperson's for 2 years for a reason. And that's because it's supposed to turn over and be the voice of the people in that tiny little small district. If you're holding San Francisco as an example for 40 some years, you don't trust anybody else to hold that seat, to be that voice.
Or somebody's been bullied. They've been bullied out of the way. They've been bullied out of the way.
They get bought out of the way. Same with Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is iconically New York, even as the senator, right? Like he could be anybody every day. That's what New York is. That's what New York was. New York now is a very different place, right? It's not sort of like a wealthy older Jewish man. It's a completely different place. It's a struggle place. So what would it look like to have someone who is more younger and also more representative of the goals of New York right now, So, and he's a senator, so like I said, I have less of a problem with him because I think Senate has more boring stuff to do than Congress. But
I still have a problem if they're overstaying their welcome a little bit longer.
You can't be here this long. You know what I mean? And I see them starting to try to do it. And I'm in New York, which is why I know these people so well. I see them trying to start to do it with Kirsten Gillibrand, even, who's the other senator from New York. She came as a junior. She was a king made by Pelosi. She does okay, but she's really floated by the establishment. I don't know anybody in New York who's like, ooh, yeah, I love her. But she does okay. But you could already see them starting to protect her. When AOC was floating the idea of maybe challenging her for Senate, Nancy slapped her down, and now maybe she's going to challenge Chuck for Senate. We'll see. But it just, to me, is like, you have to pass the baton and you have to be there. Not that I want to put these people out to pasture, because I think they have such institutional knowledge that's so valuable, but I want you to be a safety net for the next generation of people to mentor and be around for. So when we, run up on a wall, we could call you and say, oh my gosh, how did you handle this? Do you have a quick second to chat me through this? And it can be a positive experience, as opposed to, they died in office, so all I have to do, I guess I'll go read their memoir and see if I can glean some kind of like help from that. It's sad. So I think there are places for the people who have served to this point, but you've sort of ruined your legacy by winning so much and then losing it all.
So when you started Under the Desk News, this was in 2020, and it was during the pandemic lockdown, right?
Yes.
And I kind of freaked some people out because when I did a tease for our IG live, like last year or whatever, or longer, whenever.
Yeah, too.
I actually did a tease like under my dining table, and people thought I was like in a box or in a crate or something. And I was like, no, I'm under the table. I'm trying to be V. But now we fast forward 5 years later. Mm-hmm. How has the evolution been for Under the Desk News, you think?
It's been great. So the biggest difference is that I have not physically been under my desk consistently in probably a year and a half. And I started preparing people for me to be sitting upright, because when I started Under the Desk, I did not think about the physical limitations that laying on the floor for hours at a time on your elbows would have on you. And after like years of chiropractors and physical therapy and massages and surgery, I was like, we can't do this anymore. But Under the Desk is such a part of the brand because it's like a place that you feel, right? And so I was like, how do I change it from just meaning physically under my desk to the feeling that we have being under the desk together, like this safe space for news in a kind way? And so I would say the biggest change is not physically laying on the floor anymore. I also stopped wearing the full suit every day, which was on purpose because when I first started doing it, a lot of the news anchors were at home and they were very casually dressed. And so getting dressed up during the pandemic was different. It was eye-catching. And I think it made people feel safe and interested, right? When I was super dressed up when everybody was at home in their sweatpants. So then as people started to come back to the real world and whatever, the news anchor in a suit is kind of mainstream now. Everybody's news anchor in the suit again. And so I was like, all right, let me come back to like, what are the people doing right now that they're going to find interesting? And they like the idea of something more comfortable comfortable. Sometimes I'll wear a t-shirt that has like some kind of meaning on it or whatever. And people really like that. So I would say that I have evolved Under the Desk News, not the mission, not the delivery, not the content or the promise I make the audience, which is the day's news and events in a kind way from a safe space, but the physicality of it has changed the most.
Well, it's been an addiction for me to be able to follow along with you. And I'm looking forward to seeing everything else that you end up doing. For people that are watching this right now, where can they find you? We talked at the very beginning about, TikTok and Substack and all this other stuff, but like, where can they find you?
You can find Under the Desk News at Under the Desk News, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Substack, everywhere. I post pretty much every day, unless I think that the world has had it for that day. And then I like to give you a break too. Every Thursday, we do good news only. And that's a commitment that I make so that people don't feel overwhelmed and sad all the time. We have to talk about the good things that are happening too. And if you've never seen my show before, what you can expect is I post pretty much at 7 p.m. every night, and it's Monday night, and here's what happened. It's just what happened in the day and not a ton of like breaking news or scariest stuff. So if you're a person who's news avoidant, or you're a person who is in the Katie Phang world of, I want you to just give me the facts and not scare the shit out of me, like, this is a nice, safe place. You can watch me 20 minutes before you go to bed or when you're in the bathroom. We took a survey, and that's when most of the rest of the audience is watching me. So,
and we may launch the sweaty balls.
We should. We're going to call it Headline Snooze with V and Katie, the show that puts you to sleep.
I don't think I'm capable of staying like this for very long.
It was tough. It was really fun, though. I'm going to bring it back. Headline Snooze, maybe for the summer.
I think that would be a lot of fun, actually. We could do like Mondays. A summer run, right? We could do a summer run.
We do our Mondays that I love too, where we do Mondays on Substack with Sammy, and we do a lot of the Diddy trial stuff, which is, again, not the gross and gory, terrible details that are going to keep you up all night, but like why this is happening and what you need to know to be conversational.
Yeah, that's been great. Sammy Sage at Betches. We've been doing this Sammy. On Substack Live, me, V, Sammy. And yeah, right now we're looking at the P. Diddy trial. Mm-hmm. And again, I want to emphasize your point. It's not the kind of gory details about it. It's more the legal maneuvering, the strategy, and kind of like the bigger picture implications of it and its impact on American society and culture. And then we're also going to be following other legal cases and legal developments. And it's just a great way for us to just kind of lean into hanging out. One, it's an excuse for the three of us hang out. And two, to just kind of, again, like navigate the legal world together with a flavor of, well, then how does this really impact me? Why should I care? Really? I mean,
people want to feel smart, and you are smart. And so it's like, let's treat people like they're smart and let them be included in the process and the strategy and what this means and why people do it. Folks love that. I think we're in a learning era, honestly, of American public. I know people say that, folks are getting dumber and kids' reading scores are low, and maybe it's the delivery mechanisms are failing in some ways or being defunded is really what it is in some ways. But I think overall, people are naturally curious and very smart. And so if we can feed that, we're going to be okay.
Well, I agree. And in terms of, it's a buffet with V Spehar Under the Desk News. Your appetite for knowledge gets satiated and then some when you follow and you watch V. So V, thank you so much for joining me at Katie Phang News Channel. Thanks. It's been a thrill and an honor to spend time with you.
Thank you. I'll see you later. Bye.
I'll see you soon. Katie Phang here. The truth matters now more than ever. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for watching.